have a question
Yes.
for Bonnie and for people who have watched. How was it that you happened to
It was on the radio.
Oh.
I heard
It's
it on
a
the
news story.
I heard it on the radio and on the television.
Yeah, I heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean,
You didn't look for it. Or you
No,
didn't
no,
do
it was on the radio.
It was on the radio.
It was on the
And it was in the,
TV.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
saw
saw
it on the TV.
but there's some more people
TV
speaking
and
on it.
radio.
Okay, did you hear?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing one
You're
with
not
your hands
listening
up
to
over
radio.
here as well.
No hands up, no.
Anna, did you have your hand up?
Don't forget, listen to feminist music then and now on Friday morning at 11 o'clock.
Etc., etc.
Etc. Right.
Co-op radio?
Co-op radio.
Hey, hey.
Don't forget to listen to co-op radio.
It's not an addition of the thought, but it's the way I think sometimes. So a little while ago, about 10 minutes ago, I indicated I wanted to speak, and then a whole lot of stuff happened. But which is kind of what happens, right? It's this wonderful, and that's actually what I wanted to say, is that suddenly there was this huge amount of energy, right? The threads that I saw in that energy were you, Betty, saying, where is it that we can make change? Like what you know, because you were part of starting Voice of Women, and what I know, because I was there in the 70s, was what we knew was large numbers of women coming together, you starting something like Voice of Women, then has this huge reputation, right? So there were lots of ways of doing it, and then there were women who were being so feisty and outrageous, their reputation was feisty and outrageous, right? But it was all being part of something that we could all see that there was movement and momentum, yeah? And I think what started your question was, hey, where is that movement and momentum?
Where is it?
Yeah? And I'm wanting to come back to kind of where we were going, because I have a hunch we're all going to start losing our energy and want to go soon. And so I'm actually wanting to do, if it's okay with you, doing my little facilitator thing, is where my little brain went, right? I went, yeah, so there's this huge energy, and that in this room, some of us know that it's large numbers of us coming together, but we go, we're not seeing it. So we can feel helpless, right? Like it's so huge and big. And yeah, damn right, I feel sick and helpless when I hear that, yeah? And in comparison, it's tiny, the worrying about women's voices. But I would love us to leave, so I'm thinking, would we maybe all love to imagine leaving this room with some sense of, you asked the question, what are we focusing or what do we challenge on? And so that we all can leave here feeling motivated, or a sense of where it is that we're going as feminists. And even though we might not feel the movement, but there's a sense that we can start to imagine we're doing the movement again. So summarizing this, Beth, you saying you experienced it in the ways in the center. You got all excited about the coordinating collection is identifying, is identifying this stuff around the internet that we can do and we cannot feel helpless, we can do something about. And I just wondered if we start, I have the hunch we're going to be wanting to wrap up soon, and I wondered if we wanted to shift to, so what kinds of things can we take out of this room together to imagine moving forward, and where I'd certainly I want to go, who wants to get together again in a month, for instance, and see where we want to take this momentum and see what threads, and maybe we all go to look for something out there that we're not alone, because there is this grouping of women, or there's this energy that's happening, and bring that back and see what we can tap into and build on. Whew, I didn't know I was going to go all over the place, but there. That's where I am.
Beryl, does everybody remember the BC Federation of Women?
Oh yeah, I was part of it.
Yeah. We had the BC Federation of Women.
So the thing is though, Bonnie, I don't know that I want to necessarily go, so that worked 30 years ago for very specific reasons, right? And I don't know that that would be what we need. But yeah, it's like, what would it be that would fit for now? That can happen. So BC Federation was just women's organizations all across the province who got together in a regular way. But there was probably federal money to pay our... No, there was not. I can't remember. I guess I hitchhiked. I can't remember. But anyway, we used to all get there. Okay, enough.
I have been thinking about what everybody said, and sure, there were movements and mass movements. Today, I think I've heard some people like Greta talk about the individual things they've done, which I thought tonight I've never really thought of feminism and what my battles are. But I think what feminism, or women's lib we called it then, and the fact that I went to assertiveness training and things like that have prepared me for the fight in which I am now engaged, which is vaccination and the horrors that that causes around the world and on the health of everybody that we in the West have bought this myth and are doing. So that's my battle that I've never thought of. It's not a feminist battle. It might be because it's about children. And I have a lot of other people with me in this, but they're not local, they're not people I meet like this. This is where the internet comes in. I'm a part of a very large circle of people all around the world. So I don't think that looking back to what we did in the 60s and 70s is necessarily a helpful thing to do. I think the issues today are far greater. Well, I'm not trying to put this down, but to me the biggest threat to everybody right now is the rise of the corporations. And I'm not sure that it's only women that need to tackle that. I think that's people, which is when we first started off, I think of my definition as being human rights, which of course includes women, but not just women. So.
I think that even like a discussion like this with everybody here at a school, with all girls attending the discussion would be a good start. Or
and yeah, because I feel like equal, like with my friends, my guy friends and everything, like I feel like equality is not an issue for my age in this town, but I feel like it's an issue in a lot of different places, and I think that lots of my friends aren't really aware that equality is an issue these days. Like I feel that's the sense that it gets from people my age, and if people went into schools and educated them about that.
And even
cool.
Like, I remember when I was in grade 12, like there were 6 of us older grade 12 girls that were taken aside, and we're given the assignment of talking to a group of 4 girls from grade 8, because that year there was a whole bunch of issues with the grade 8 girls. They wanted to kill one another, and it was this huge issue over looks or boys or I don't know what it was, and it was sort of like our mission to sort of talk to all of them and just get to know them, and somehow that would help them not want to kill one another. And nobody killed one another that year, and I think maybe it worked, but I could tell, like, for some of the girls, it was the first time somebody had even talked to them, maybe, and it was a huge deal for them, whereas other girls were sort of a little bit more sociable, and they were the ones that were sort of taken aback by the whole concept and actually opened up a little bit.
One thing that a lot of you women have mentioned is the consciousness raising groups. Like, I've never heard that terminology before, before meeting Kathleen. Consciousness raising? Yeah. Until I started working with Wicwa, I had never heard that term. You know, I understand what it is and all of that, but I've written that down probably about 6 times tonight. You know, I mean, I think it is important to have these groups and for each of us to own a piece of it and to take it out into the community. And I mean, the wisdom that is gathered is so important to pass on, you know, and I think that maybe even just continuing on a flow like this, like Beryl said, meeting on a monthly basis, or because that's what it is awareness. And I think that there's just a piece of us in the younger generation that just don't know. You know, it's not that we don't care, it's just not knowing, right?
It's really interesting. I mean, I'm hearing all of this and I'm going, I wrote the proposal. The CKCA proposal was to take it out to the schools. That was the proposal. And they didn't fund it, and I still don't know why they didn't fund it.
See, that's why I don't believe that all information is out there in technology.
No.
The information that's out there is the
right here.
information
It's
they want you to
It's
have.
yeah.
And, you know, and so that's why I don't ever say that all the world's knowledge is out there in technology.
Oh, no.
It is not.
No, it's there's
And
tons
that's
of it
why
right here
I'm
in this
a Luddite
room.
too.
Yeah.
I feel sorry
Yeah.
for kids who were brought up with television ever since they were little. I was brought up with the radio, and I feel sorry for you young people. I really do. I think we've done an awful disservice. I think the technology sucks. I just
Bless
hate
you,
it.
sister.
And I'll tell you something else. I'm sorry to get so strident. And I know, Beryl, where you want to go to sum things up. But
You're going wherever
I
everybody's
remember
going. It's good.
I love my environment, so I'm a socialist, feminist, environmentalist, and going to vote green or whatever. But I remember the Archbishop of Canterbury was visiting Canada at one point, a couple or 3 years ago, and he said on CBC that he thought it was a sin to fly in an airplane. Now, my family lives in Ontario, and I take the train most nowadays because of the environment, but in those days I was flying. And I'm thinking, holy mackerel, our whole economy in North America is built on businessmen flying here and flying there. Anyway, sometime after that, there was this little news clip on the CBC. I heard it once, I've never heard it again. And that is that it's not flying that causes, and it's not cars that cause the majority of the pollution in our world. It's the internet. Do you know how much energy is used to keep the internet going?
Oh, yes. The fans. It's the fans. You got to keep that technology cool.
I think you're on the right track.
It's the cow.
Go learn all of those
The
things.
cow's
That's
fault.
really
It's the farting cow. It's not the farting cow.
Elephants as well.
You know, I get sometimes worried, like having worked in Asia so long and then coming back here and here things look so good. And that's like the apples we buy in a grocery store at Safeway. They look beautiful, red, perfect, but they have no nutritional value. And here I get worried when I hear people say, oh, we are equal here. You know, there is no problem in Nelson. But there's no gender awareness. Like in India, the women, they have like these workshops, these gender awareness workshops, which I think are great. And then I hear what they talk about there, and we could really use that here. We may feel equal and project that to the outside, but that internalized powerlessness that women carry today that seems to be like stuck in our genes or something. Like how often do we see it that women get up, I have something to say. I'm sorry, but may I interrupt, please? You know, it's like this thing of like this fear of standing up because what? You know, we don't get killed here. We don't get not necessarily killed or rejected by the family or something standing up. Like, what keeps us from doing that? It's like stuck in there somewhere in our makeup, and it's not necessary. And it doesn't take that much awareness to change that. Huh? Yeah.
We used to call it socialization.
That's right. Or just gender awareness, equal. What does it mean being equal when there's still so many girls and women that are afraid to walk outside? And why do we have to take back the night march, you know? And if this can happen with that 16-year-old girl, and there's 20 kids standing around and watching it and thinking it's okay, there's something missing. It all looks good. But there is a lot of awareness that kind of got lost in the looking good. And so, you know, like the workshop, the Wenli Do that I did, there used to be a large demand for it. And then the demand kind of went down, and I thought, well, maybe women feel safer. Maybe it's just not necessary. Maybe it's a good sign, you know, that because it's really not that great to teach, you know, how to deal with aggression. Why is there so many women confronted with aggression that they're paralyzed in fear? Why? When our body comes with a survival mechanism that makes us 5 to 10 times as strong. You know, why is it? It's so internalized. That oppression is so internalized. But we're not looking at it anymore. There's and how many consciousness raising groups are there now? It's just an interesting phenomena, and I don't think that it has gone away. and that there is no need. But what can we do in our lives today, like to share and to raise
action?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we had agreed and we'd kind of committed to just being here until 8 o'clock, and Beth has to be back here early tomorrow morning, and I'm sure there's other people who are at school. But I think this was an incredibly important start, because we listened to each other and we met each other on a really womanly, human basis. But I think that a couple of very strong issues came up here today. You know, and whether it was gender awareness, or whether it was violence, or whether it was the rape that was of the 16-year-old girl, and then put on the YouTube. I know that at Trafalgar School 2 years ago that we had a mother and her daughter were in here, and that the little girls were being pressured to give blowjobs in exchange for not being beaten up, and the girls were given blowjobs in exchange for packages of cigarettes. So there's some disconnect that's happening with a certain segment of young people. On the other page, somebody said, why don't they have people, I think it was Amber who said, why don't we have people who go around and talk in the schools? Someone mentioned, why don't we have, because like Sandra, the CC had agreed to write an article. Once a month, the CC is now having Sandra write an article that's called, what, Feminist Perspective?
It's called Kootenai Feminism.
Yes.
Kootenai Feminism. You know, and that's all we need to do each time, is like if each person leaves here and has a discussion about how to handle this. What do we do about this violence that happened to the 16-year-old girl? Take it to the radio program. Make a commitment to do something. You know, the Women's Center that could, with the CC, target on a monthly basis these issues, coming up with what action can take place. What can happen with the people who are still, do they still have city councils, or is there any voice for the students to be able to invite an activity to take place?
Well, my school, yeah, but I'm not sure about the public school.
So maybe give some thought. So maybe in your school you have that. Maybe it is something like, Marcia, you had talked about, why wasn't it funded going out into the public schools? But continue to look at this. What are some actual actions that we can take? You know, it's like, I don't feel like it's okay to drop the thing about the YouTube. I don't think it's okay to drop that without the Women's Center taking an incredibly strong stand. So let's just say that we take a stand, but can we also then connect with other women's centers all across British Columbia and all across Canada to say, this is not okay. This has got to be an issue. Let us find ways to reach out in our communities, write the newspapers, talk to your radios, have maybe set up once a month where women come together and decide what action are we going to focus on, what is the most important thing to be able to decide, and what is the action that can take place. Because it's too frustrating not to take action.
That's right.
It makes you feel helpless to not take action. It's empowering to say, okay, I'm going to make one phone call to one school and see what they have set up there. Say, or talk to people like Anchors has a program where they go in and they do sexual options. The Youth Center has a program. So tomorrow what my one commitment is going to be is I'm going to talk to Sandra and help her find out what would the next steps be to get more information about this so that can go into the newspaper.
Right.
And I will also try to see if that can be written to other women's centers in British Columbia to start that.
Right.
And hand
Just
that
spread
over.
it out.
So to start it somehow, where are your communities? If you belong to NDP or if you belong to any kind of an organization, what is one step they can take? If you're in your schools or you belong to a band, is there something that you can say in front of a performance that you're giving? If you are meeting with women at the land trust, have a discussion about this. What are the steps that we can take? I think it's about action.
Yeah.
It's about education. It's about acknowledgement. It's about trying to get the money to do it, but it's also about where can you plug in where it doesn't take money. It's about action.
I think we also need to say thank you to the women that started it all for us.
Yes.
That goes back a long way. Back before any of us.
But I would really support you in that on this particular, the generation that's a bit older than me, just a little bit, some of you.
Generational
Yes.
imperative.
Totally, thank you.
None of us
really.
are here in a vacuum. We're here
No.
because the women in the generation ahead of us busted their butt talking to each other and bringing issues out into the forefront. The next generation and the two generations. I mean, there was 11 decades of people in this room, which means that each and every single group of women, as they went along, had to learn from the group of women and people before them, and they were able to figure out, okay, well, what can we do? I think that's a key. If we can't bring the issues up to the forefront, feel the outrage about it, talk about it, and take an action. So my invitation is everybody go back and think about what is it that you can commit to do. One person, each one teach one, each one talk to someone, and maybe through that in using, if people have access, you're good on the computer. So maybe send out the thing on,